Welcome to episode 8 of Win the Day, and today's episode is the Arnold Schwarzenegger story. We're going to go through Schwarzenegger's journey from the Austrian Alps to the Hollywood Hills, how he became one of the most bankable and recognized stars on the planet, and how he was able to succeed across different disciplines. How could one guy go from bodybuilding to acting, entertainment, politics, philanthropy, business, and everything else that he has been able to achieve? So stay tuned. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Before we get into it, I just wanted to quickly remind you that if you go to YouTube, you can go to the search bar and type in Win the Day with James Whittaker, and you will be able to access all of the video episodes of Win the Day. There's a playlist there that has everything, and if you hit subscribe, you will be able to access episodes as soon as they are released. Without further ado, let's get into today's show. And the quote for today's episode, of course, comes from Arnold Schwarzenegger and says, "If I had listened to the naysayers, I would still be in the Austrian Alps yodeling." If I had listened to the naysayers, I would still be in the Austrian Alps yodeling. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a clue of what we're going to talk about in this episode. Because when you have the courage to follow your dreams, you're naturally going to attract a lot of attention and criticism. Yet champions in any industry know how to block out the mindless chatter and tap into the success frequency. In doing so, they ensure their actions align with their goals, regardless of how unlikely those goals seem. And for someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger growing up in Austria, many people would say that he has no right to achieve all the amazing things that he has done. And as a result of that, it inches these people closer to victory. So let's talk now about Arnold Schwarzenegger and go through a little bit about his journey. So Arnold was born in Austria, a country not known for its film stars. In fact, I challenge you right now to think about one other Austrian film star apart from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can you think of anyone? I certainly can't. So a bit of an unlikely place to begin this story. So teenage Schwarzenegger set his sights on becoming the greatest bodybuilder who ever lived. So that's how big Schwarzenegger was thinking from the moment he was a teenager. A bit of an insight there into how big you need to think if you want to achieve big things into your life. And while people offered their judgment and their criticism, saying, how could a kid from Austria make it in the world of bodybuilding, Schwarzenegger simply focused on putting in the work day in, day out. There was only one opinion that mattered, and that was his own. At the age of 15, Schwarzenegger first started weight training. And using visualization techniques, he imagined himself on stage, lifting the trophy above his head and feeling every associated emotion with winning that title. But he didn't just imagine himself winning the title once. He imagined himself winning that title year after year after year. And sure enough, just 5 years later, at age 20, he was crowned Mr. Universe, the youngest winner in the competition's history. Schwarzenegger would go on to win that title 5 times, and also the Mr. Olympia title a record 7 times. It was at that point that Schwarzenegger decided to turn his attention to acting. And on that period, he reflects, "I wanted to be a film star, but everyone told me it couldn't be done. They said I had a huge, monstrous body that was too developed and had a strange accent that didn't fit into the movies." And of course, has his accent really changed? He has that same Austrian accent in the movies that he features into to this day. But the important lesson that he learned from his bodybuilding career was that he could do whatever he set his mind to, regardless of what other people thought, and no matter how insurmountable the odds appeared. Someone else's ill-informed opinion of his destination did not need to be his reality. So to give his dream the best chance of success, Schwarzenegger worked harder than ever. He used the resources at his disposal, the big ones being unwavering self-belief, a ferocious work ethic, and extraordinary personal sacrifice, which are all characteristics available to you too, to give himself the best chance of success and leaving no stone unturned in his preparation. "I didn't listen to other people," Schwarzenegger remembers. "I was convinced I could do it, which is all that mattered." I was convinced I could do it, which is all that mattered. And Contrary to his intimidating physical presence, the Schwarzenegger difference is actually mastery of the mental game. Where most people fear hard work and do everything they can to avoid it, Schwarzenegger actually relished putting in that extra work because he recognized that every single action he took was going to get him closer to that perfect destination he had already mapped out. And when his big break arrived in the form of Conan the Barbarian, the bodybuilder turned aspiring actor was a perfect fit. Not only did he have the physical presence, but his lack of acting experience was actually considered an advantage by the director, John Milius, who didn't want any of the cast members bringing in any preconceived notions to filming. In fact, the director was even quoted as saying, if we didn't have a Schwarzenegger, we would have to build one. Literally mechanically build one. That's how unique his physical appearance was at that point, and what an advantage it could be if you figure out the best way to use it. So the success of that movie, Conan the Barbarian, led to a whole heap of other films that I'm sure you are aware of. Movies like the 1984 film Terminator, which was directed by an emerging director, James Cameron, who went on to direct movies like Titanic and Avatar. And James Cameron said somehow even Schwarzenegger's accent worked. It had this strange synthesized quality, like they hadn't got the voice thing quite worked out. And that line, "I'll be back," became one of the most famous lines in movie history. Even if you haven't seen the Terminator films, I'm sure you've heard that line. All because of his funny accent, this accent from Austria that no matter how many acting classes he took, he was unable to shake. And today, Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the most recognized and bankable stars on the planet. He parlayed a successful career in bodybuilding to prominence in entertainment, philanthropy, business, and even being elected a 2-term governor of California. On this power of self-belief, Arnold said, "If I had listened to the naysayers, I would still be in the Austrian Alps yodeling. Trust yourself no matter what anyone else thinks. Believe in yourself and your vision, and success will come. Never listen if someone says you can't do something. Never listen if someone says you can't do something." And another important lesson from Schwarzenegger is the importance of thought before action. We need to think before we can grow in the right direction. Regardless of the goal, whether it's fitness, investing, or even something like reading business books, you need to start off by thinking why you're doing it and what success looks like to you. Use that goal as motivation. Place vivid reminders around your home, your office, and anywhere else you spend a lot of time. That might even be the wallpaper on your phone. Anywhere that you spend a lot of time to give you that focus and that urgency, because a lot of people are good at setting goals, but they don't put it front of mind, which means they lose the focus, or they don't create that urgency of actually achieving it. They don't map out these time constraints and what they're willing to sacrifice to achieve it. Arnold said, "I had posters all over my bedroom wall so that every night when I got to sleep and every day when I woke up, they motivated me." You need that motivation. I always smiled when I was in the gym because I knew exactly what I was chasing. I looked forward to another 1,000 reps because every rep I did brought me one step closer to turning that vision into reality. How powerful is that? Already seeing it in your mind. And if you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. It all depends on what you do with your thoughts and how big you dare to dream. Now, of course, the elephant in the room with the whole Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, the moment that has really tainted his career a little bit, has been what happened with the breakdown of his relationship to his ex-wife, Maria Shriver. So some of you might be thinking, well, out of all the successful people that I interviewed, why would I pick someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I haven't interviewed personally, but I'm using here in this podcast as an example of someone who is a success? And good question. So let's think about right now, Schwarzenegger, from what we've spoken about. He's been an absolute trailblazer in the field of bodybuilding, in politics, in entertainment, and Hollywood, and philanthropy, and business. He is an amazing lesson for anyone around the world that whatever you set your mind to, you can create that reality irrespective of what circumstances that you appear in right now. But his marriage breakdown as well is a reminder that while we all have the ability to make whatever choices we like, we are not free to escape from the consequences of those actions. So when we lose sight of what's most important, which is clearly what happened to him in that momentary lapse, these bad things happen. And we've seen that with people like Tiger Woods and things as well. It comes right down to the what I say at every single speech. I have this big quote that comes up on screen. It says, each day, if you do not make the decision to win, you have automatically made the decision to lose. So while a very difficult situation for all the parties involved, Schwarzenegger has been very upfront about how his own actions and indiscretions caused continual hurt for his wife and his family and everyone involved. But he seems dedicated to spending his remaining years restoring that trust and building positive relationships with everyone involved. In fact, the family even sat down and they said together, what's done is done. How can we make the best of this situation? And that is such a great question to ask. So in the last episode, we spoke about how to get rid of regret. Asking yourself that one question when you're faced with adversity or you're in the middle of a challenge or you're dealing with regret. How can we make the best of this situation is a great way to have that growth mindset and move forward. So that's it for today's episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed learning about the Arnold Schwarzenegger story from the Austrian Alps to the Hollywood Hills. You should definitely check out the blog version of this episode, which I will link on this episode wherever you're watching it. So you can go and check out a video which I'm including in this blog. And this video is actually of a speech Arnold Schwarzenegger did where he shares his lessons for success, and it's got some truly powerful stuff in there. So I highly recommend you go and check it out. I also wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who's gone on and left a 5-star review of this podcast or hit the like button on YouTube. So if you're enjoying the show and you haven't done that already, it would mean the world to me if you shared this episode or gave it a 5-star rating or subscribed. So I'm wishing you every success from now on. Get out there and win the day. Until next time, onwards and upwards, always.